War and the Constitution. Not something we spend a lot of time discussing in our society, perhaps because it's not convenient. Well, let's get right to it. There's an ongoing debate about whether the executive branch can move forward militarily without congressional approval. We could spend our time discussing the War Powers Act of 1973 and what previous presidents have done, both Republican and Democrat. But that just tells us about trends. It tells us nothing about fidelity to the rule of law or why the supreme law is written the way that it is. Let me be clear. The Constitution requires that before the executive can move forward with military action, Congress must first approve. Article 1, Section 8 of our Constitution tells us that Congress has the power to declare war. And after there is a declaration, the president can wage war by deciding how he will strategically engage. In a nutshell, respect towards the rule of law is at a minimum, and it has been for quite some time. And the sensationalism of conflict moves many Americans to disregard just how important this really is. So let's answer the question, why should Congress have to declare war? And why not just leave it to the hands of the executive? The answer is simple. So one man, one sovereign can't decide to send our young people to war and risk their lives without a thorough, deliberative process. I mean, think about all of the times when our Constitution requires heavy interaction among and between the various branches of government before something's accomplished. We don't allow laws to pass until the proposed piece of legislation passes through the House, the Senate, and then on to the President. Yet war, putting people's lives in danger, is somehow different. We'll just have one branch approve of putting our men and women into the throes of combat. When the president appoints someone to his cabinet or to the federal court, that person must be confirmed by the Senate. Yet again, war should be undertaken unilaterally with just one man making the decision. That's nonsense and antithetical to our charters of freedom, and quite frankly, it's a heap of bull-oney. We don't just want one man to squander the lives of people who will be on the front lines, and so we require that the most voluminous branch of government, the legislative branch, debate, consult, and contemplate the decision. We wouldn't want it any other way unless you're perhaps the president. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at this. James Madison, in a letter to Thomas Jefferson, said this: "The Constitution supposes what the history of all governments demonstrates, that the executive is the branch of power most interested in war and most prone to it. It is accordingly, with studied care, vested the question of war to the legislature." And George Washington goes on to say this: "The Constitution vests the power of declaring war in Congress. Therefore, no offensive expedition of importance can be undertaken until after they shall have deliberated upon the subject and authorized such a measure." We must be careful not to approve of the president who wishes to act unilaterally when the target enemy is evil, and hesitate when we think the president's actions are foolish because the enemy ain't all that bad. Fidelity to the rule of law is the hallmark of this country, not political expedience. And we can't have individuals in Congress who are not willing to make it clear what their power is, a president who will not honor his and their power, and a people who won't guarantee that power by virtue of their vigilance to the Constitution. The power to declare war unequivocally belongs to the legislative branch. It is certainly in the best interest of freedom that we keep it that way. I'm Shane Krauser with Freedom Fires, and we'll see you next time on the other side, where the right message will destroy the wrong ideas.